I guess I'll just start off. I can't see who's here or whether there's a lot of us. Oh, there's 56 of us here. Okay, according to my little screen, great. So thanks everybody for coming. Kind of a rainy evening. I got a bit of a soaking just now, so I'm just recovering from that. So we're going to kick off the meeting right now. I'm Ed Hoare. I am co-chair of the YQNA. I'd like to acknowledge Neil Colgrass, who's the co-chair, who is much more important than me because he's the technical wizard who makes it all happen, which I was unable to do. So,
and actually, today we have Dee Dee Wu, our new tech officer, who is co-hosting the Zoom meeting with us.
Oh, okay. So we have two technical geniuses, which is fantastic. They can make up for my deficiencies there. I'm going to start with land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Wendat, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Chippewa, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. We pay tribute to the legacy of all First Persons of Canada. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work in the communities that have grown in the treaty lands. We've had some. Obviously, we've had a federal election. We've got a new MP. Cheen Guyan is, we did ask to show up, and she's basically asked for a little more time, promised to come to the next meeting and say hello. So I'm sure that there's some changes in her life and probably a lot of things to get organized. So we'll look forward to hearing from her now at the next meeting. It's just some general comments. We are looking at YQNA's constitution, and I don't think we have any constitutional changes to put forward today. But it was drafted by some smart guys that I didn't know back in 2011, and probably needs a little bit updating, as probably most volunteer organization bylaws do. So we're going to look at that. I spoke to Tom Davidson earlier today, and he said he was going to show up today for our meeting and give us a rundown on what's happening. Are you here, Tom?
Nope. Yes, thank you, Ed.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. And thank you again for inviting us. And
really just tell us who you represent, Tom, just so everybody,
absolutely,
if anybody doesn't know.
That's great. And just really happy to be here on behalf of Deputy Mayor Ausma Malik and my colleagues in the Ward 10 team, my colleague Sarah, who is responsible for constituency and planning issues in the area, and as well, my work that focuses on projects and initiatives along the waterfront, especially including a lot of the issues that are facing the YQNA. So was asked to provide some updates from your co-chairs, and I'll start off with that. And just now that we're seeing the warmer weather come in, even though it's a little hidden at this moment, now turning everybody's attention is starting to turn to one of our most important recreational green space resources, the Toronto Island. And over the last couple of years, the Deputy Mayor's commitment has been to improving access to the island and connections on it in all seasons. That's been something of a shared goal and an objective, we know, with our waterfront communities. And we know that it's been challenging at times to get there with the ferry system and the conditions at the ferry terminal. So that's why, as of last year, she introduced a motion to direct staff to look at options in all ways to improve access to the Toronto Island. And at the same time, the idea of a fixed link had been proposed, as it has been in the past. So staff came back with a updated report that went to the executive committee today and is going to council next week with a set of new recommendations to establish a task force of city staff alongside with Waterfront Toronto to focus on the actions and consideration of all options in the short, medium, and the long term to be able to improve access to the island in all ways. And so what that means is the serious attention and focus of city staff will be dedicated to looking at this issue on a consistent basis and treating it with the seriousness that it deserves. It's also bringing in the expertise of Waterfront Toronto, who I know you're also all very familiar with, and with a commitment to public engagement on projects and initiatives and ideas that come forward through this task force. So that will allow for, you know, the interesting idea of fixed link, which, you know, the report goes through a number of the issues that have been identified and the opportunities that it presents, giving that the time to be able to be considered over the longer term, which is what a fixed link would entail. And then while still not stopping the work of looking at improvements to island access and the passenger experience right now, including in the summer. So I know staff from Parks is here to present a fuller update on some of those initiatives that have to do with the work around the ferry terminal. But I know for us, we're really excited to see the implementation and start of bike share on Toronto Island as of this Friday, which was facilitated by the Deputy Mayor's motion last month at Council. That's bringing a whole new level of connectivity across the island that people will be able to enjoy. And we'll have more details on that announced tomorrow. It's talking about the comfort of people moving through the ferry terminal, through shade structures and public art, as well as managing the queues and lining up better. So these are some of the pieces that are being implemented right away as we continue to look at ways to connect the harbor with better transportation points throughout the harbor. And we're also putting forward new water taxis to increase the capacity right away as we keep on track the delivery of those new electric ferries that are going to be bigger, faster, and more efficient, which are going to come and next year. So we are working through that and very excited about the focus and seriousness that this is going to be addressed with. I also was asked to just to take note of the new federal government and the change and or the opportunities that presents with the election of with the election that had happened in the past month. And for us, we had over the last year through with city staff and the deputy mayor, especially as their position as the one on the board of Waterfront Toronto, and the local city councillor, and a focus on the waterfront, really seeing some strong partnerships established with the federal government along with the province in dedicating funding for a new phase of waterfront revitalization funding. So to continue the work that's led to the development of the East Bay Front, and more recently the about to be soon opened parks on Okoyman-Minising and called Bidasasing, the new river that everyone here at YQNA had championed over long years. So that work is now going to be able to continue due to a new funding agreement from all three orders of government. And so the consistency that we have with a new but similar federal government is a welcome one, because we still have more work to do on that. Confirming the funding for the East Waterfront LRT, which is been part of serious discussions over the last year, that needs to be confirmed, and I know that everyone is ready to get back to work to help finalize that. So we're looking with great promise at the introduction of our new MP and working with this government together. Then I also just wanted to take note on one of the questions we were asked about the runway end and safety area construction. As you know, that was a requirement from Transport Canada for a safety requirement that had to be met within an established deadline. We, through council and thanks to the advocacy of many of our communities, managed to secure the least expansive version of that in terms of lake fill. That work is going to commence in a preliminary way this year, but construction itself will only start in 2026. So what we have from the city side is a commitment to have Ports Toronto conduct engagement on that construction management process with the public as well as stakeholders like yourselves in a more direct, fashion. And we're expecting that to start later this summer when there is a construction contractor on board. So those were the points I was asked to address, and I'm happy to take any more questions as well.
I'll maybe just comment on a couple of things. It's very interesting. I read this report that's come out of the Waterfront Secretariat. It's about 20 pages of text, and it went to the executive committee today. And it's the one that Tom mentioned. It's called Improved Active Transportation and Water Access to Toronto Island Park. And as Tom said, it has said that a fixed link, namely a bridge over the Eastern Gap, would be kind of not easy and would be quite expensive. But what is interesting is it sort of recognizes that there does seem to be a general demand for more access to Toronto Island, and that we may be requiring a kind of a substantial change somehow in the way the harbor is configured in the next few years, possibly a fixed link, or more motorized transit, or a gondola is mentioned, or I suppose there are various possibilities. One of the things that's mentioned is this idea that you need to have water access probably from more than one place on the city side. And you might want to have people going across the harbor, say east to west, from the new mouth of the Don River, say over towards Bathurst Quay or whatever. And that implies a whole kind of a different direction of the ferries or different kinds of ferries. It's a sort of an interesting question, and I think it's an opportunity for everyone to think about kind of in a big picture way. What is it that the harbor could be or should be, say, in a generation from now? I had lunch with Joe Cressy, who many of you will know, last week, and we talked in very general, big picture ways. And I understand that Waterfront Toronto was actually looking at a kind of a study in a big terms of what should be happening generally. We've got these great projects. They're on time, more or less. They're on budget, more or less. But where should we be kind of going? And island access is an important part of it. So I think there may be some interesting discussions coming up in the next, say, year or two about where we should be going. The island master plan basically said, let's keep everything kind of the same, and let's have more signs, and we'll have slightly larger ferries and so on. Whereas City Council at the same time, by looking at access to the island as a separate thing and even considering a fixed link, is kind of thinking, no, we might have to do something much more radical than it. We may be looking at big changes of some sort. So I don't know what'll happen, but thanks very much, Tom, for your comments, and I look forward to seeing how that all unfolds in the next little while.
I did see a couple of questions pop up. If I'm happy to address them.
I guess I'm in charge of that, am I? I don't know. There's Tim Kocur says, yes, sir. Free field start. Thanks. Yeah. Councillor Malik's great work. Ula asked, what was Councillor Malik's great work to preserve the nature of Hanlon's Point beach and environs? And I assume that is that a reference to the I'm not sure who put that on the agenda, frankly, but that may be a reference to the recent change at Hanlon's Point having to do with there being a kind of a 200-meter barrier for boats that would keep them away from the beach. Or is it a reference to something else? I'm not sure.
Yes, that's right. Yes. And, in consultation with stakeholders that have been involved through, the elevation of Hanlon's Point Beach, in particular, its history, its 8 decades of queer history as a place of gathering and community for the community there, and in partnership with a range of stakeholders that are consider the priority of that as a special cultural place, but also a place of significant ecological importance, and a place that's welcoming for all. The advent of many boats parking right along the beach shore was causing a lot of disruption and a feeling of a lack of safety amongst a lot of users. So the city, in coordination with ports and our parks staff and Toronto Police Services, have established a pilot project that's going to work this year to establish a zone of 200 meters and then a quiet zone beyond that to test out to where motorized watercraft are prohibited. Coming with a canoe, coming onto the beach is still allowed and enjoyable, and you're still able to have a boat in the environment, but not within close proximity to the beach. And there will be a survey taken by the city on public feedback on that as well.
Right, and there's also a reduced noise area, 400 meters.
Yes, that's right.
So there's kind of like two zones. There's another area where you're not allowed, because what happens is you get big not party boats, but kind of partier boats. There's like cabin cruisers with people drinking beer and a lot of loud music and so on. And so that'll have to be toned down closer, 400 meters away from the beach. So we'll see what kind of enforcement it is. So there's a few summer weekends when it gets a little bit out of control. Message YQNA meeting, says Neil, which may be a reference to Ports Toronto's meeting on this. They did have a kind of a get connected and talk about noise and so on Toronto Island and safety and also boat speed. But it was conducted, I think, by Ports Toronto in conjunction with the police unit, and a few of us may have attended. I attended it. I don't know if that's what you're referring to, Neil. Was there a YQNA meeting on that? I don't specifically remember.
I don't think. Is this a message in the chat area?
Yeah.
I didn't.
Oh yeah. Oh, somebody sent us. I don't know. I'm confused. Somebody says message YQNA meeting. Anyway, there were some meetings. Well, let's leave it at that.
Right. We do have someone who wants to ask a question. Sorry to interrupt, but Matza has her hand up there. Do you mind if we let her in?
Sure.
Just unmuting.
Hi, Pam.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom. And certainly getting to the island is a challenge. I really hope that there is sort of a very broad look at the whole harbor. And I know that where the current water taxis dock, there are the guys who run the ferries are not happy with where those guys come in. It's a challenge. And so I hope that there's a lot of consultation with other users about the water taxis, even coming into our area of the island. Well, out in the bay, they tend to be kind of cowboys. And there's a lot of people who use the harbor who would like, I think, some more oversight of the water taxi business, and looking very carefully at what are good places for the water taxis to dock.
Right.
The other thing that I wanted to just mention was, I think getting to the island is the critical piece to that is fixing the ferry docks on the city side. It's, I think that it could be much better organized. I think you could have ticketed timing to eliminate people from having to line up for hours and hours. I think that there are many ways that you can assist in the lineup situation, but until those ferry docks are just too small, and I'm hoping that the city will begin seriously looking at spending some money to fix those ferry docks. I love the idea.
I hope so too. Pam, there'll be the task force, and these are things that I know there's going to be consultations, so presumably these points can be brought up with those folks. David has raised an interesting question about the.
And I beg your pardon, I just know that because Pam mentioned the coordination with increased, looking at the opportunities for more water taxi, but it has to be done properly and finding the right spots so that it works for people who are using it as well as users of the park and the community. It means so during these last couple of months, there's been consultation with water taxi operators as well on where what could work in terms of additional infrastructure. And I know in consultation with park staff, there is some new floating dock area that's going to be added as of July at Center Island. So that gives more of a more space for water taxis to be able to deliver passengers and avoid queuing up waiting times and them flying off to other spaces on the island that probably don't work as much. So that's definitely another one of the immediate improvements.
There's definitely a lot of moving parts there. I'm a kayaker and I've been hit by a taxi. So the speed is a concern and just the sheer volume. So all that'll have to be discussed and where they should go and all the rest of it. David has raised an interesting point about hovercraft proposal, which is very new. I think I only found out that there was the plan was to put it on the south side of the Western Gap about 2 days ago. And I don't know what the configuration will be. I don't know how noisy it will be. I'm told, or I did read somewhere, that the hovercrafts nowadays are quieter than the ones kind of, decades ago. So these are all questions that hopefully we'll find out, and hopefully there will be consultations on really what will be going on, what the configuration will be, how fast the boats will go, how noisy they'll be, if it'll happen at all, etc. It's very, very new. There's been the proposal of hovercrafts and various other things going over to Niagara-on-the-Lake or Port Moody or whatever for sort of as long as I've been alive, I think.
Yes.
And things have a way of kind of not actually happening in the end, or happening and not lasting very long. So could be this will be the time that actually happens, but let's wait and see. It's certainly a number of years.
So I would say that yes, this location is a new new agreement that has happened between Hoverlink and Ports Toronto on the island airport side. We have had city staff are asking questions around the approval requirements that are involved in this, and as well, the other main question is what is the public engagement that's going to take place with the community. I know that there is an intent around some public process that involves the proponent, and we're going to make sure that we're that is coming out and being advertised and done properly in conjunction with the community, so that those questions around noise and certainly the traffic and modal use that comes at the ferry terminal after you get off the ferry or come out of the tunnel, then those are the factors that, amongst many others, that need to be considered, as well as harbor use. So those engagements we expect to happen in a very short amount of time.
I'm looking down the messages. There's a couple more questions, including on the Reese Street Park. I know they decided not to proceed with the plan they were going to go, and now it's going to be another plan. Any news on that? Am I right? Shovels in the ground 2026, maybe?
Yes. So I expect for Reese, we'll be able to share some more further updates very shortly on this, in terms of being able to optimize the opportunity that there is for that public space, and use the expertise of Waterfront Toronto, and in conjunction with it being designed as a real hub and community precinct with Harbourfront Centre. I think there's going to be some really interesting opportunities that you'll see, and it'll be very shortly that we'll be able to speak more about that.
Okay, and then the other question was about the Amsterdam Bridge, and we're going to have Massimo, I think it is, from Harbourfront he'll talk about a few things, and it will.
Sure, but I will say about that is absolutely something where the deputy mayor speaks to Harbourfront Centre, our city staff, about often, and there is an entire working group of those parties that are dedicated to looking at how the city and Harbourfront Centre are working together to help support Harbourfront Centre and improve it as a campus in the community, which I know from the leadership we've had over the past few months from Kathy Loblaw, they are absolutely dedicated to strengthening that connection to the community and working with the city to improve it as a campus. And one of the key items that we are looking at is ensuring that there's a plan for the rehabilitation and maintenance of that bridge together.
Right. Okay. I'm just scanning here quickly. We want to kind of move on, but the quiet zone, the ban on power boats and jet skis, great idea. Why only Hanlon's, which I kind of agree with. It's apparently a pilot project. It's because the LGBTQA community was very effective in lobbying in that particular spot, is the answer. Does that mean that there shouldn't be similar stuff about noise and speed of boats or elsewhere?
Yeah. So
the answer is, well, that's an ongoing question.
Exactly.
Maybe yes.
Sure. Just exactly as you said, this is a pilot that is going to be implemented, and feedback on that could definitely inform how this is utilized in other locations.
Monterey's beaches, okay, similar. There's going to be consultations clearly on the LRT. It's going to be years. We don't even know if there's ever going to be funding. And okay, so I think that's more or less our questions for you, Tom. If somebody else has anything else, they can raise it over the course of the meeting. We'll probably be looping back to some of those issues. So thanks very much for your great update.
I can help. Thank you. You're very welcome. And I can help to fill in as well in the text box as well. Thank you.
That's super duper. We have some great speakers here who are standing by, I think. I don't know if they are here. I suppose I should find. We got Doug Bennet.
You know what? Sorry to jump in. I think we do have a representative from Chris Glover's office here.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Chris Glover. We don't have Chris Glover, but we do have Nancy Trendoff. Have I got that right?
Yes, you do.
That's right. I'm here.
Oh, you are excellent. Welcome.
I'm happy to be here.
Great.
I am a constituency assistant in the office of MPP Chris Glover, and unfortunately, Chris is participating in a gun violence roundtable this evening. He would have loved to have been here, but as you know, this is an issue very important to him, and he wants to be working to make communities safer and provide other avenues for youth susceptible to gang involvement, and so he's at that meeting tonight. Many of you may have heard about the New York Times article on the Therma project, and it showed that they misrepresented themselves, and they claimed that they owned several spas in Europe, when in reality they only owned one small spa in Romania. The facts showed that they copied the name and logo from a German company that did own 6 spas. And when the owner of that German company passed away, the current Therma passed itself off as the older reputable company. Despite this controversy, the government is continuing with the project. Chris has brought this up in the legislature and will continue to push to cancel the deal. And we, of course, want to focus on Ontario innovation that Ontario Place was originally intended to do. If anyone would like a link to the New York Times article, we're happy to send it to you. Actually, in fact, I've sent the notes over to Ed and Neil, so please feel free to share those notes with the members or whoever's here this evening. And any questions, feel free to email our office. The legislature is back in session for the last couple of weeks, and there are 3 bills that are deeply concerning. We need to focus on strengthening the economy by building housing, protecting our public health care, and adequately funding education. And we've got bills here that are very concerning. We've got Bill 5, introducing special economic zones that gives Ontario the unrestricted ability to create regulation-free zones where it can exempt any business or project from any provincial or municipal law or bylaw. So this bill is building on Bill 154, which is the Ontario Place Act, which exempted the project from all municipal and provincial laws. and exonerated any agent or minister who committed acts of misfeasance during the project. And so the government is using Bill 154 as a template for Bill 5 all across the province. And the bill also is connected to the Ring of Fire developments, which overrides the Endangered Species Act and Indigenous consultation. So, of course, this is very concerning. People can actually still make written submissions to committee on this bill. Written submissions are due on May 26th at 6 p.m. And you can find out more at the link that I provided to you, Neil and Ed, if you want to share that with the members. And again, if anyone is interested, please email our office and I'm happy to give you the link so you can make written submissions for Bill 5. The next bill is Bill 6, and it provides the government with greater powers to evict unhoused people living in tents. This will allow individuals will face up to $10,000 fines and or prison sentences for 6 months. Instead of addressing the thousands of people who are homeless in encampments by building housing, the government has chosen to criminalize them and subjecting them to exorbitant fines that they're obviously unable to pay. And there's no real evidence that shows that this legislation will do anything to solve the crisis that we're seeing on our streets. Bill 17 is the Protect Ontario by Building Faster and Smarter. Doesn't actually address the need for affordable housing. And of course, Chris and his colleagues are going to be calling, for more investments in housing. That's what they believe in. There are 2 opposition motions that were presented at Queen's Park. One is Strengthen Ontario. And so Chris and his colleagues are going to aim to empower people to choose Canadian and Ontario-made products. It will require giant grocery chains like Sobeys and Loblaws to clearly label when a product is made in Ontario. And it will also mandate big box stores to label any sudden price hikes. The second opposition motion is for hospital infrastructure. At a time when thousands of good jobs and Ontario's economic future is at stake, we're looking to prioritize nation-building infrastructure to create good jobs and strengthen Ontario. And we're proposing that the government prioritize critical hospital infrastructure as nation-building projects in the upcoming budget. Another issue you may have heard is that our public education system is facing shortfalls once again. The TDSB is facing a $70 million shortfall. The Catholic Board as well is facing $1 million shortfalls. We held a public education emergency meeting just last night, and we had TDSB trustee Alexis Dawson join us. If anyone is interested in receiving the minutes to that meeting, as well as the slideshow that trustee Dawson presented, please again email our office. We're happy to share those minutes. Chris and Alexis are actually organizing an education rally at Queen's Park. It's going to take place on May 24th at 12 p.m. at the South Lawn at Queen's Park. So again, if anyone is interested in participating in that education rally, email our office. We're happy to share the details. And I guess on some exciting news, along with Chris's portfolio as a technology and democratic reform critic, Chris is now also the shadow minister of sport. And he's really excited that the riding will be hosting FIFA next year. We heard that the Bentway and Fort York has been chosen as the location for the FIFA Fan Festival. Chris will be working with the Bentway, with Metrolinx to ensure construction doesn't impact the event. And we're also going to be working closely with the Liberty Village BIA to ensure that businesses are not impacted and that they receive some economic benefits from the event. We're also going to be working closely with the Minister of Sport, Neil Lumsden, to ensure that the event is a huge success in the riding. And that's our update.
Ed, would you like to unmute yourself and come in here?
Very what? Now everybody can hear me, I hope. Okay, I'd like to thank Nancy for that excellent presentation and mention that YQNA has already in fact sent a letter in to oppose Bill 5. And without further ado, move on to our speakers who are going to talk about the electric ferries. And I believe we have a team of 3, but I'm not absolutely sure what's going on. We've got Doug Bennet, who is with City of Toronto Parks and Recreation. Are you here, Doug?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay. And we've got Jennifer Ogrodnik.
I'm here.
You're here? Okay. And you're the Director of Construction of JLFT Shoreside Infrastructure Project Create-TO.
Correct.
Correct. And we've finally got Jeff Cole, who is Senior Project Manager of the Ferry Fleet Replacement, also at Parks and Recreation. You here?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, glad to be here.
Great to have you guys talk about the ferries. We've been excited about the ferries and looking to see them appear for, it seems like a long time now. I don't know, we're going to say 5 or 8 years or something like that. I don't know. And my understanding is that you're going to have a video from Richard Farquharson on electric power supply to the ferries. Well, Richard himself, unfortunately, is not with us. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
You want to say a few words to start with, or do you want to
Sure.
go right into the video?
Well, just a few quick words of thank you for inviting us. The invitation went out to me first. I'm a Senior Project Manager with Parks and Recreation, responsible primarily for what we're calling the ferry passenger experience, but also connected to what we call the ferry integrated projects. And there's 15 of those, all connected in some manner to the exciting developments with the new ferries coming. I got the invite from you, and I reached out to my friends Jeff and Jennifer as they are heading up some of the big pieces, the big capital project pieces, and have the tremendous knowledge about what's going on with those. We do have a presentation to run everyone through. But we thought, yeah, we'd maybe see Richard's video first. This was a bit of a surprise for us. Richard's a subcontractor, as it turns out, and I think a neighbor of yours. But he is a subcontractor to one of the firms that Jennifer is working with. So I think that's how all the pieces fit together, and we can talk about that after the video. But if you're ready to roll the video, that would be great.
Hello, YQNA. My name is Richard Farquharson, and I live at Harbor Square. I can't be with you today in person, so I did this short video to talk about the infrastructure project to power zero-emissions, battery-powered ferries for the Jack Layton Toronto Island Ferry. I'm excited because I'm a neighbor of the Jack Layton Toronto Island Ferry Terminal, and I'm also an electrical engineer involved in the design and installation of this project. This is where shore power charging infrastructure will be installed on the easternmost pier adjacent to Young Quay. This is where Trillium and Augier are currently berthed. They'll be relocated during winter construction anyway. Canada's first zero-emissions battery ferry was the Maryland Bell. It went into service in 2021. Between Billy Bishop Airport and the landside terminal at the foot of Bathurst. In that case, it was possible to do the project quickly because they converted the diesel ICE engine to electric battery drive. There's a small power supply adjacent to the building we put in 2007, which has the capacity to charge the ferry via the gantry. Here we are approaching the charging station. For the Maryland Bell, it charges about 40 kilowatts, and it charges for about 5 minutes. They do 15-minute runs over and back, except when it's windy. When it's windy, the batteries have a hard time and they have to go to every 20 minutes or every 25 minutes because they need to charge for much longer to keep the run safe. There's no charging on the island, so they have to make sure they can make it back. So you'll see the arm drop very shortly once we're solidly moored. And there it goes. And now the cars are free to get out. And we will charge here for 5 minutes. When the boat is fully charged, this is about 10 minutes later. We close the gates. No more truck access. The arm is about to lift. There we go. It disconnected. No sparks. That's a good thing. And away we go.
The Maryland Bell 40 kilowatt charger and retrofitted diesel to battery ferry was possible because it's a short run across the Western Gap. I think you'll agree that the run from Jack Layton Landside Terminal to Wards or Center Island or worse, Hanlon's Point calls for custom-built ferries with a much larger charging infrastructure, but also the need to fit on a small footprint on the available pier. This is a typical compact substation we designed to power the N-Wave deep water cooling system located at Simcoe and Pearl Street. The much harsher Waterfront site calls for equipment to be installed inside an E-house, short for electrical powerhouse. This photo shows a Toronto site where the E-house was shipped in 2 halves for truck transport. This is what a complete E-house looks like, and AKA, the ferry supplier in PEI, plans to float the complete E-house to site pretty much as it's shown. This is a preliminary plan view of the completed E-house to be installed on the Young Key Slip. If you know about Tesla superchargers, which put out 250 kilowatt charge rate, imagine something 5 times that size. To avoid local buildings' lights flickering during charging cycles, Toronto Hydro is bringing 2 dedicated 13,800 volt underground feeders from their new Copeland transformer station, which is located under the roundhouse just south of Skydome. This is the Pier E-House eventual location. From there, power will be routed to the ferries via overhead gantry, similar to the Maryland Bell. This is a picture of the Maryland Bell gantry. The new ones will look like that. The icing on the cake for this project is it's an all-Canadian effort, so will not be subject to tariff cost overruns. My company, S&C Electric, has about 800 staff in our Toronto plant, and AKA the ferry builder is out of Prince Edward Island, Canada. This is Richard Farquharson signing off.
Okay.
Are you guys going to
Yeah,
elaborate, Doug? Are you going to?
yeah, thanks for that. Can I share my screen here?
Yeah, you should be able to.
Yeah. What are you seeing? Hang on.
Yeah, oh, there we go. It's starting.
There we go. You can see the deck, the new ferries. Great, thank you. So yeah, this is just a few slides to help aid the discussion and to build on some of the things that Richard showed in his video. We've divided it into 6 sections: project background, the scope of work, the construction phasing, terminal improvements, the ferry passenger experience program, and then we can take questions at the end of it. Our partners here, so the City of Toronto is responsible for the ferry fleet replacement project. That's Jeff will speak to that. And also our ferry passenger experience program that I can speak to. Create.to, our agency partners, are delivering the shoreside infrastructure project. That's all that electrical e-houses and everything that Richard was talking about in his video. And also some interim improvements in collaboration with Waterfront Toronto. And Jennifer will speak to those projects. So I'll start here and then pass the microphone over to Jeff. You're all familiar with the Jack Layton Ferry Terminal, 1.4 million passengers a year and 6,000 vehicles. These are all commercial vehicles, service vehicles. As you know, there's no private vehicles allowed on the islands. And as mandated by the 1994 Toronto Island Community Residential Act, we are required to maintain ferry service at all time to the Toronto Islands. So that's why we run 365 days a year to the island. At this point, I think I'm going to pass it to Jeff to talk about the actual ferries. These are the current ones that we're all familiar with and love dearly, but are showing their age. And Jeff's job is to start replacing them. Jeff?
Thanks so much, Doug. Thanks, everybody, for having us. I just want to, Richard's presentation and little video was great. There's a few details that I'll get to later that are a little different. I'll get to them. So, as I'm sure you all know very well, there are four ferries currently in service at Jack Layton. There's the Angayara, which has been in service for 61 years. It's the passenger and vehicle ferry. And then there's three passenger ferries, the William Inglis, the Sam McBride, and the Thomas Rennie. And as you can see, they're getting old. My dog, who's a Newfoundland Labrador, just turned 13, which I learned is about 100 years old in dog years. So he's about the same age as the William Inglis. And let me tell you, he doesn't swim anymore. So it's amazing that the William Inglis still does. Doug, if you could go to the next slide, please. So we are currently in the process. Actually, I guess I'll talk about how this process has worked so far, because I think Ed, you mentioned that, this has been going on for 5 or 8 years. You're right. This has been going on for some time. We really initiated this project in 2015. Parks and Rec wanted to replace our aging fleet with new diesel ferries. That was the thinking at the time. But very shortly thereafter, 2018, we realized that, well, maybe diesel isn't the way to go in the way the world is changing these days. So they shifted to a hybrid diesel electric ferry. And then in 2002, they shifted to a 100% electric emissions-free ferries. And that's as part of the city's commitment to reduce greenhouse gases from wherever it can across its operations in the city. So in 2024, we retained Damon Shipyards. They're an international shipbuilding company to build our ferries. AKA that Richard identified, yes, they are based in PEI, and they are providing the power systems for both the ferries and for the charging infrastructure being built at Jack Layton. But they are supplying that power system to Damen. And Damen is building our ferries in Romania, in Galati, Romania. Once they're constructed there, they're going to be put on what's called a heavy lift vessel, which is a giant cargo ship that actually moves other ships around, and sailed through the Black Sea, down the Bosphorus, across the Mediterranean, across the Atlantic, up the St. Lawrence up the St. Lawrence Seaway, across Lake Ontario to Toronto. So these things are going on quite the voyage before they arrive here. We're getting two ferries. The first is the RoPax, that's the combined vehicle and passenger ferry. And the way we look at its capacity, it can take 14 vehicles or 650 passengers, or if there's no vehicles on board, it can take 1,300 passengers. So a significant increase from what we have right now at the Angara. Replacing the William Inglis and arriving in March 2027, thereabouts, is another passenger ferry that has a capacity of 1,300 passengers. So again, a significant increase on the William Inglis. Here are a couple renderings of what these ferries are going to look like. As you can tell, they're very similar in design. So these are the RoPax ferries. You can see there's some vehicles located there. They look similar to our existing fleet, but when you put them side by side, these things are significantly larger. They are much bigger vessels than the current fleet. Doug, if you could go to the next slide, please. So this is the PAX vessel. This is, again, our passenger only. You see you have an enclosed passenger compartment on the main deck, and the upper deck is open, just like our current fleet as well. We are currently in the process of designing the interior of those ferries as well. So there will be a survey that you will all be encouraged to take to look at the different options that we have to design the interior of those ferries. Last point. Richard in his video said that the charging arm that was shown at the Maryland Bell is the same as ours. Not quite the same. Ours is a Zinus charging arm. It's developed by, I think it's a Norwegian company. If there's time later, I have a promotional video from Zinus that shows how our vessels will charge. Similar principle, it's all automated, so people aren't involved. The vessel kind of comes into dock and it starts charging automatically. But I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer now to talk about what's happening on the shore side.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Hello, everyone. So I'm with Create.to, which is the organization that's responsible for delivering the shoreside infrastructure project. And what this means is really all the infrastructure on land required to charge these ferries. So Jeff is delivering the ferries, they turn up, and then the infrastructure that we're building charges them. So they work together at the end of the day, and AKA was mentioned, and they're key to that integration piece. They're also the designer on the shore and the vessel. So what we're building on land and what you'll see in the coming months and year is some installation of utilities. So Richard had mentioned how Toronto Hydro is bringing dedicated feed from their Copeland station through the Jack Layton Ferry Terminal. So they're going to bring it to the right of way up at Queens Quay, and then we're taking it down through the laneway on the eastern side of the ferry terminal to bring it to the e-houses, which you can see their location here on the plan. So we have 3 e-houses that we need for the magnitude of electrical infrastructure that's required. And I will also note that we're future-proofing the shoreside infrastructure. We're putting in 2 charging arms right off the bat because we have 2 new ferries coming, but there are plans to replace the other aging 2 vessels. And so we're putting in the necessary underground electrical work so that when those ones come, we can easily install the charging arms so that they can also receive power at this site without minimal disruption and additional construction works. So the other thing that we're doing is the new ferries, although they're similar in shape, they're much longer. They have a much narrower range for movement during charging. I think it's 7 degrees at which they could sway. So we're demoing all of the existing mooring infrastructure that exists right now in all the berths, and we're replacing them with new dolphin structures. So these are heftier piles which the vessels will tie up to and keep them steady during the charging process. In addition to the main electrical works and the mooring infrastructure, there's some minor dock wall repairs that will be done at the same time, just while we're in there to bring things up to a state of good repair. And then there's a bit of dredging that has to be done. So through the vessel propulsion system, it tends to push sediments to the head of the slip. These vessels are slightly deeper, and so there's just a little bit of sediment that we need to take out at the head of those slips. So the phasing of the work, I'm sure you're all wondering, when is this all happening? Well, our construction manager is mobilizing next week, so you'll start to see things rolling and happening. But the mobilization will be establishing their site presence through trailers and fencing and setting up their systems. And they're going to start with demolition. There's not a lot of demolition, but there's some existing sheds and buildings that need to come down to make way specifically for where the new e-houses are going. And the site needs a general cleanup. There's a lot going on at the ferry terminal at the moment. And then once it's all cleared, we'll start with the foundation and the footings for the e-houses later this summer and into the fall. Then we're going to move into berth 5, which is where the Angara currently berths, to do the in-water work. So from September to December, this fall is when we will do that work because the 3 passenger ferries are in service during this time. So when the RoPax is out of service, the vehicles will have to go through Billy Bishop Airport, but passengers will still be able to move to and from the islands using the passenger ferries. So we're going to try and get that work done as soon as we can to get the RoPax back in service. And then we'll start work on berths 1, 2, and 3, where the passenger ferries are during the winter months when those passenger ferries are already out of operation due to the winter conditions. The RoPax is the only vessel that can operate through the ice conditions in the winter. So that work will take place all winter. And then we can just go to the next slide. And then what we have continuing on in berths 1, 2, and 3 are the installation of the new dolphins and fenders and you can see a walkway that's built on top of them. So that's the new mooring infrastructure. Then we have the delivery of our e-houses from AKA that will be placed on those foundations. And then we have the automatic shore charging systems that will also be installed. And then we run cables, connect everything up, commission, and we should have charging infrastructure just in time for those ferries to arrive in November 2026 is when the first one is arriving, and April 2027 is when the second vessel is arriving. So interim improvements for the terminal building. So shifting gears here a little bit, but we have some exciting things happening with the terminal building to improve the user experience. So one thing that we're really excited about coming this summer is a shade structure over top of the center of the waiting area. So it gets really hot and crowded in there in the summer, and to provide shade, I think will just make it that much nicer. So what's being proposed here is a birds in flight shade sail structure. So the shade sails are orientated and designed to represent birds in flight, and they will be staggered to kind of give that impression and also provide the necessary shade, of course. We're also launching a public art program this summer where you'll see some art installations. There's a terminal queuing study currently in progress. So we heard at the beginning of this call, there was mention about how there needs to be improvements to queuing. We're on it. We definitely understand the situation, and we're doing some modeling right now to understand where those bottlenecks are and how we can alleviate the challenges and the wait times. And the other thing that's ongoing is a terminal visioning study. So this is the immediate improvements that we can do right now for this summer as much as we can to make it as pleasant as be, but long-term planning is happening. So the whole terminal area is being looked at, and so that visioning study is underway.
Thanks, Jennifer. And then this is the really the last slide. So this is the ferry passenger experience. This is a program that we started last year, sponsored by our deputy city manager and supported by a wide range of partners at different agencies and divisions, but led by Parks and Recreation. So again, what can we do quickly to improve the passenger experience? So we've installed shade tents where we can outside the ticket area, and you might notice them also on the Center Island docks. We have some new info booths coming. They're just getting inspected right now, but they're going to have a new kind of ferry themed wrap, and they'll be staffed and positioned at the end of or at the beginning really of the entrance to the Jack Layton Ferry Terminal to serve visitors and answer lots of questions before people get in the lineup. That's the intent, so that people aren't answering questions when they're buying tickets and slowing down the ticket line. We've noticed that that's a pattern that happens, so try to get those questions answered early on. We have just installed free public Wi-Fi in the terminal area, so if you're down there with your phone, you can check it out. The network name is TO Public. No password required. We're just getting the signage up and going for that. Last year and again this year, we'll be working on improved wayfinding and maps, both on the Jack Layton Ferry side and on the island side. We mentioned Tom mentioned bike share. So very exciting program with our friends at Toronto Parking Authority, bringing a bike share pilot to the island starting, it says May 17th here, but it's actually on Friday. It's going to be up and going. The intent is that the bikes on the island stay on the island, so that if you're a bike share user like I am, you ride your bike to Jack Layton Ferry Terminal, you dock it there, so you don't have to bring it over on the ferry with you. You're not being charged while you're waiting in line. And when you get to the other side, you can jump on a bike share at Hanlan's, Ward, or Center Island. We've got a new Toronto Island Park brochure, just 50,000 copies delivered to the terminal today with a brilliant new map. We've got a busker and entertainment program lined up. It's actually started early last weekend. And you will start to see some new accessibility procedures at Jack Layton Ferry Terminal. We're hoping to have all of those in place by Canada Day. We did present this to the Toronto Accessibility Advisory Committee on May 9th. And we got some good input there. And we've also started a 24/7 feedback line at toronto.ca/ferry feedback, so that you can provide your feedback. Visitors can provide their feedback anytime. It's just a short little one-page kind of a survey form. And we're open to ideas for improvement. You know, it is an old building, 1972. We're dealing with old infrastructure and architecture that was designed at a time when we didn't have 1.4 million people going over to the island. So we're trying to make the best of what we have, while you know, Jeff and Jennifer and a huge team of other people work on the new electric ferries, and you know, eventually in the future, new terminal facilities to accommodate all the folks who want to go over to the island. And I work quite a few weekends now down there, so I'm pretty familiar with a lot of the challenges that we have, talking directly to passengers, making changes on the fly like we did last weekend. So we're here to hear your ideas and to answer your questions. I'll stop sharing at that point.
Okay, thanks very much. That's great. We do seem to be getting lots of questions here. I have a couple questions. Maybe I'll start off. Some of these questions have been asked maybe by other people, but we all, I'm sure you are well aware that there was a design contest, and there was a ferry terminal design chosen. It seems to me it might have been 10 years ago now. Ken Greenberg was one of the creators of the successful design, and the pictures used to be, and I think probably still are, up in the kind of shelter there as you wait for the ferries. Is there any word on, you talked about long-term planning, is there any word at all or view as to when, if ever, that vision might come into being? Or is it going to be modified, or what?
Who wants to handle that one? You're talking about the 2015 Waterfront Toronto competition? Yeah.
I'm happy to take that one. So, you know, we're working with Waterfront Toronto on the interim terminal improvements, and in that is developing the long-term strategy. I can say that all of that work is based off of their past work. So what that looks like, we don't know yet, but they haven't lost sight of that work.
Okay. So I'm just looking at some other stuff here. Somebody says, what? Daniel Hall says, what provisions are being made to ensure that Ongiara can operate this winter in the event that the construction of its dock takes longer than planned?
This is very critical for us. So, you know, there's a small window when the Ongiara can be out of service. You know, we don't want it out of service during the peak ferry season, and it has to be in service for the winter. So that is a milestone we cannot miss. However, knowing how construction projects go, you know, you always need to have a contingency plan. So we're looking at what that contingency plan looks like. You know, it could be combination of things, but pausing construction and restarting in the spring is not off the table. But we know that service needs to be maintained per legislation. So that's just not something we can compromise.
Okay. One thing that came up earlier in the meeting, I think when Tom was speaking, was that we know that the ferries will be bigger. My rough understanding is somewhere in the vicinity of about 40% larger in terms of passengers carried. I don't know if that's about roughly.
It depends on which ferry you're comparing it to, but the new ferries will have a capacity of 1,300 passengers.
Okay, but before it was kind of like,
I think the William Inglis, it's in that previous slide, Doug, but so the two larger ferries, I believe, are about 900 right now, maybe 950. And I think the William Inglis is much less. I think it's around 600.
It's 390, the William Inglis, and the two big ferries, the Sam McBride and Thomas Rennie, are 908. And the Angara is 220 passengers, I believe, plus some vehicles.
So it's pretty sizable increase. And I think Tom said they were going to go faster. Is that also true?
They will be traveling at about the same speed.
Okay.
These vessels don't even really get up to their top speed. Like they're only at their top speed for a very short amount of time, like a couple minutes before they're either accelerating or decelerating to come into the ramp. So the crossing trip is going to be pretty comparable to what's happening now.
Okay, and one of the reasons I ask is I'm a kayaker, so I'm constantly going by the ferries, and they go by me, and it's all sort of fine, and I'm just used to the rhythms of them and so on. But if they're, I guess they're bigger, they will make a bigger wake. Will they? They're heavier, so on. So just trying to figure out how much of a change to the actual water and to other boaters.
That's a good question. I don't have a clear answer for you on that one, but that's a great question. I can take that back.
Okay, it's a pretty formidable wave on GR in particular, just because I think it goes a little bit faster than the others. Seems to make a pretty major wake when it goes. Not as big as the fireboat though. That's somebody asked here, will it cope with high water level? Like in 2019, I would be amazed if the answer was no. I assume the answer is yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Really, the challenge, I think, for high water, it's twofold. The vessels will have no problem. In fact, we'll be more comfortable with them at high water because you've got more distance from any issues at the lake bottom. It's really the island. The island itself, at that high water level, it's not open for business anymore.
Things go wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't see a lot of service that obviously the residents would still need the service, and they would have that service.
Another question I'll ask, nobody else has asked, but many of us will know that there seems to have been a collision between one of the ferries and possibly the airport runway or something. I think it was last year. In a foggy day. Is there any information? Is that related to the age of the ferries, or how did that happen? Is it going to happen again?
I can comment a little bit on that. The Toronto Star has written about it a fair bit. The ferry did run. I don't know if I call it a collision, but it did run aground near the runway in some fog. And there was some damage done, and it was all repaired last year. So the Thomas Rennie is back in operation. It was back in operation beginning with the Canada Day weekend, and it's been running strong since then. So
okay, so you don't have, obviously it was a navigation issue or something.
It was more of a navigation issue. I would recommend people, read the Star article probably.
Right. All righty.
There's a question here in the chat about what happens if the ferries run out of charge. Jeff, do you want to talk about?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Great question. So the ferries are going to have enough battery capacity to do at least 4 round trips. So they wouldn't need to charge every trip. They can go back and forth 4 times, probably quite a bit more than that, especially in fine weather. When the batteries renew. As the batteries age, that does decrease a little bit. But the plan is that these things, while they will charge every time they're docked at Jack Layton, they don't need to. And I think as we learn how to operate our new fleet of ferries, we'll kind of fine tune how that charging goes. The way the charging cycle works per our design, it's kind of like an electric car. You don't want to overcharge your vehicle. You don't want to undercharge. You don't want to let it go below a low threshold. So really, you're kind of keeping it in the 15 to 75% charge range. And every cycle, every trip to and from the islands, it's roughly 10%, and it can charge that 10% back up in about 6 minutes. So the plan is every time it docks, it charges, and it kind of replenishes itself from the most recent trip it did. So every time it's heading out at about, let's say, 75% charge, maybe in the 70 to 75% range. It does its trip, comes back, charges back up again. So it's always setting sail from Jack Layton at, based with a full tank of gas, to use a fossil fuel metaphor. So, if for whatever reason charging was unavailable at Jack Layton, it could do multiple trips before it would need to charge again. And there are two ways to charge. There's the fast charging, which again, it's doing this kind of 6-minute to do about 10% charge. But also the vessels can plug in overnight and do what's more of a trickle charge. It's about a 600 volt AC charge. And it would then charge it up full overnight as well. So yeah, that's kind of how the charging cycle works. And I think it does provide protection, in the event that for whatever reason it can't charge on one cycle, it's got lots of capacity to make additional trips.
Okay, thanks. Daniel Hall asked an interesting question, which is from past experience on busy weekends, the delays occur loading and unloading passengers. You're going to have more passengers, of course, and presumably. And so is it going to be possible to load people quicker, or is that just going to be a longer process?
So it's a great question, Daniel. And the ramps at the terminal aren't changing, but the ramps on the vessels are going to be significantly bigger. So right now you can kind of walk, I believe, about 2 abreast to board the ferries on the docks that are attached to the ferries. The new ramps are going to be quite a bit bigger, so you could probably get 3 or 4 people abreast walking into the ferry. So we think that should increase the loading time. While we do have more people, we should be able to get people on faster than we do today. So the new vessels will have that increased capacity. And really, because the charging is so fast, the charging won't be the bottleneck. It'll be getting people on and off the ferry. By the time that's done, the boats will be charged up and ready to go.
Okay, and I have a kind of a related question, which relates really to parking and infrastructure on the city side. I live exactly across from the ferry dock, and I'm sort of acutely aware congestion on summer weekends, lineups, people can't park, they're trying to find a parking spot, people stop to let everybody out of the car. It's just a bit of a mess, and we're about to have possibly major excavations for the LRT there to build a tunnel, which might take years. We might have a major building going up at I think it would be 18 Bay, I guess, which is the convention center now, and so on. There's all kinds of projects that seem to be just on the verge of happening, and a lot of chaos going on. Is the city going to be able to cope with what appears to be an increase in number of people coming with their cars and somehow or other having to get there? Does the infrastructure for parking, everything else sort of, is it going to be possible, basically? Is it going to be even worse?
That's a good question, Ed.
I've been wondering this for years about all the construction that's going on. And one of the things that YQNA suggested long ago was that there'd be a second ferry terminal over perhaps on the Portland at the Eastern Gap or something over that, because the congestion down there on a summer weekend right in front of my building can be really pretty crazy. And it looks like it's going to get a lot worse because of construction projects all concentrated in that area in the next few years. So I sort of have wondered, well, how is that all going to work?
I don't know, Doug, do you have an answer?
I don't know. I just know that there are obviously folks in city planning who are aware of all these changes, and we're also aware that, and I think it's reflected in the kind of funding and support that City Council has provided for all of these projects. That, Toronto Island, we've always known it as a place that we love and enjoy, and a place to go to, but it really is one of Toronto's top tourist attractions. That, it's 2 million people a year. It's 1.4 million people on our ferries and the water taxis. Thanks to Tim, who's on the call, and the BIA, we know from their surveys that the water taxis bring over another 600,000 people. So it's 2 million people a year. That's more than the Toronto Zoo, quite a bit more than the Royal Ontario Museum. That's quite a bit more than the Art Gallery of Ontario. The Blue Jays right now are getting about 2.5 million people a year over their season. So it is a big, busy place. And that's why we're investing these funds in the new ferries with the wider ramps that that Jeff described. We're doing what we can right now to address, some of the quick wins, the short and medium term solutions, but we know that there needs to be longer term solutions around moving people and things like the service vehicles to the ferry. I think the marine use strategy from 2020 put out by Waterfront Toronto talked about the idea, for example, of moving, separating out passenger traffic from one terminal and vehicle traffic, maybe at another terminal somewhere else.
It proposed exactly that. It proposed that there be a kind of a truck-related terminal that would go potentially from Eastern Gap area, the old catamaran ferry building or somewhere around there. And in fact, when they do barging and stuff to the airport for construction projects, they now take it from there. I believe we always like to claim credit for things if we can, but I believe that it's because of our suggestion, actually, which was made in the mid-teen, maybe 10 years ago, that there should be careful attention given to getting as much traffic as possible to some other location.
Yeah.
Particularly for trucks. So it used to be we would have huge trucks with, say, speakers for concerts, and they would sit on Queen's Quay and block all the other traffic. And it was just absolutely totally crazy because there's everything there already. So getting some buses in there. One of my comments that I made in response actually to the marine use study was that there should be consideration of having passengers there as well as commercial trucks, because you do have a lot of people coming down with the minivan and they want to get Granny and the dog and the picnic wagon, everything out right there. And it is really a mess because people trying to stop. There's nowhere really, it's not very easy to park. There's underground parking, but it's not, and there is some above ground, but it does get congested and crazy. And if it seems to be that trying to get as many people from some other location going to the island is good. I mean, the water taxis actually at least diffuse it a little bit across the front of the water. But
correct.
That seems to me to be a long-term concern that we're going to have. We're going to have. We can't. It's a chokehold. It's a choke point. It's on the city side, I think.
It's kind of a victim of its success, I guess, and the success of Toronto, that these places are so well loved. And from being down there like all last Saturday, 6 hours talking to people from Belgium and New Orleans and Pittsburgh and England, Turkey, as well as people from the buildings you all live in. It's just a wonderful mix of people who go over, and we're working very hard to keep that a special thing. We're not going to solve everything, the three of us on the call, but working hard to make some real quick win improvements while looking at the longer term. There was a good question in the chat about traffic management at Queen's Quay and Bay Street, and we are working with our colleagues on transportation services around that. We did that for the Dragon Boat Festival last weekend. It was very successful, so we're looking at bringing that back again this year.
Okay, I don't know if there's anything
Ed,
pops out.
Sorry to jump in. I see that Braz has raised his hand to make a comment. Time for another comment.
I don't seem to see the hands.
Here, I can unmute him.
Okay.
All right. Ask him to unmute himself.
Where are you, Braz? Are you there?
Okay. Hi. Thank you very much. Excellent. I can't say how excited I am about the ferries, etc. Remember talking about them 10 years ago. I wanted to raise one issue that I think is much more again into the future. Given the circumstances of where we are now and the fact that we are going to have to grow, including in our tourism, because there's a lot of internal tourism starting, we need to find other ways of how to create the obvious snowballing of this success of Toronto, but also link it with the big bottleneck that we have now for visitors who have a limited time here, want to get to Niagara Falls and back, and they're stuck on the highway. What are the possibilities of beginning to look at the possibility of float planes like they have in Vancouver Harbor also coming in? Both to help diffuse also the excess points out of here and create other nucleus, another focal points where they can take off to spread the load along the harbor, for example, more towards the Eastern Gap area, and also linked to the possible failure of this thermal project. Who knows how it's going? But that's another project that we might have to step in to rescue and create something out of what is left after the ruins before they even get built. Because if it gets into a lawsuit or something, we might have to rescue our own interest as shareholders there. That's all. The idea is the long-term view as well, but that long-term is going to get compressed because of the tourism traffic now between here and the US being limited, and a lot of European tourism is going to turn to here as well. So that's it.
Yeah, I guess the hovercraft is sort of an attempt to deal with that to some degree. There's also on the horizon the possibility of commuter ferries, I suppose, because certainly those have seemed to have been a success in New York, as I understand it, and also in London, England. You see commuter ferries busily going along the Thames now, up and down. Seem to be used by a lot of people. And I don't know if that would lie in the future, because the traffic congestion for commuters coming from Oakville or Ajax or God knows where, is extraordinary. Anyway, I think we probably should move on. I thank our three speakers, Doug, Jennifer, and Jeff, for coming. If you have questions for them, you can pass them on to us, and we can try to get an answer from those guys. And hopefully they'll be available. Somebody has asked whether the presentation can be made available on the YQNA website. And first of all, I assume we have your permission to put it on. Is that fair? To put your deck on?
Yeah, I think so.
We'll and I hope we can do that. So I'll leave it to our technical wizards to figure that out and get it done. But I think a lot of people will find it interesting and might refer to it in the future. So let's try to do that. I know that Massimo of Harbourfront was keen to sort of get in and get out, because he has a busy evening. And are you there, Massimo? Can you?
I am, Ed. Hi, good evening.
You're still here. Okay. Can we do you now? Is this a good
absolutely. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I have about 9 slides to share for our summer lineup, a little bit of a sneak peek of the progress at the restaurant. Hopefully now you're seeing a PowerPoint.
Yep.
Okay. I think I'll leave it right over here. Does that show up well for everyone?
Yeah, it looks good to me.
Okay, great. So our summer lineup, I'm just going to take folks through and our summer, which is packed. And we're very excited about. So we have it kind of broken in 3 different categories. So this is the what's on for the summer. So in our craft studios, this is inside our space at the 235, the main building. We continue with all the free daily exhibits that all the artists do in-house. And these exhibitions are from those artists that are in our residence. So you see the objects for adaptation, salvage, Laura, and the colors. Those are all displayed throughout our building that anyone could come see for free from 10 to 6, 7 days a week. And that's up to September 7th. The Science Center, we're very happy to say, has extended their stay with us. They were started with 6 months, and now they're going up to September 1st. They're having a lot of success. And we're excited to have them here. They service a lot of the 2 to 15-year age group, which is a big part of what we do as well with our camps and our school visits during the school year. So we're excited to say they're there and they're staying, and we're happy. We also have an Indigenous celebration coming up on June 7th from 11 to 4. And it's hands-on activities and things of that nature. So, that's a piece that they're going to be bringing forward for us. The power plant continues with their spring-summer exhibition. So that's now until the 14th of September. And they're open Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11 to 6, and Friday, typo error there, from 11 to 8 p.m. And on holiday Mondays from 11 to 6 p.m. And they have 2 artists that are exhibiting currently at the gallery. You can find more of that information on the website. So what continues on is Free Flicks for the summer. So that was quite successful. We're starting on July 8th. Every Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. We have a free outdoor movie popcorn on a summer night. So we're gonna do 8 of those outdoor film screening, and we hope people come out to enjoy it. We're featuring Academy Award-winning films this year, so we want to hopefully see some familiar faces enjoying the stars by the waterfront. Dancing on the Square is returning on a new format, listening to feedback this past year. It is still on the square. It is a lesson that starts at 7 p.m. on Wednesdays, and then followed by live music, dancing on the square. And it goes until 10:30 p.m. It was ending a little earlier, and people were having a hard time, driving to the city or commuting. It was shorter. It was also on a tighter budget. This year, we're able to extend the programming a little longer, and we have backup plans in case Mother Nature doesn't want to cooperate. We bring it into our lakeside patio. It's a lakeside terrace, not patio. It's indoors, so we have a backup plan. So no matter what, there's always dancing Wednesday nights. Get some lessons. Come out, do some salsa, some swing, some soca, some samba. I'm going to bring my wife there. I hope to see someone out there. Not that I know how to dance, but I'm going to learn. Buskers, happy to say that they're back, and in a very beloved way for us. We're bringing them back with live music, and they're going to have all kinds of inspiring acts along our waterfront, along our entire campus, and on our proper campus. So it's not along the boardwalk. It is along the boardwalks, but away. I'm going to call it away from residents to some extent. It's not on the north side of our property. It's prominently on the south side of our property. So it's very thoughtful, and we're very excited. We're going to sprinkle them throughout the entire season, around festivals, around night markets, around day markets. They're just going to be sprinkled in, which will I think help animate our property and make it more enjoyable for all the visitors, all the people who call us their front yard and their backyard. Tour and charter boats, those are always alive and kicking around Harbourfront Centre, as you know. Lots of charter boats coming off. The city cruises come off our property, and those tickets, etc., are all available through Harbourfront website and links to them. We're going to continue to program the Toronto Music by the Lake. This is basically an iconic setting and live music from the top emerging Canadian bands, international performers. And so we are looking at various different bookings at the moment. This is on a concert stage. This is a special series that we're putting together. Stay tuned. There'll be some big announcements with who and what is going to be joining us. I can't speak to them just yet. So Music in the Garden. This is at the Toronto Music Gardens. This Harbourfront programs it on Thursdays and Sundays, 7 p.m. and 4 p.m. respectively. That starts on June 21st, so we're not too far off, and we're very, very excited about this 18 musical concerts. It's just magical. That's the right word. The Toronto Music Gardens are really kept well by the city, and we're honored to have programming there. Museums of Toronto. So this is they're in the middle of setting up, and they're in our former tenanted building by Lavazza. It's 225 Queens Quay. It's adjacent to 207 and on our property. It is the Museum of Toronto. So it's Toronto loves basketball. starting May 21st to October 12th. Those are the hours of operation. To learn more, please go to museumsoftoronto.com. Interactive exhibits, love and story between basketball and Toronto. And we are sure to see some Raptors join at some point. So very excited about that. They're with us. That's 6 months. Canada Day, made here, a made here market. So we are working on filling music, outdoor markets, showcasing 100% Canadian made goods. There'll be live performances showing our community pride. And that's from July 1st from 12 to 11 p.m. There's a full line of festivals that are being dropped into the Canada Day celebration and potentially a big surprise. The Bentway is they're doing a great initiative through the architects. It's a moving forest. And we are happy to have them at the Harbourfront. So there's these 50 trees that are strapped to shopping carts and forming a roaming canopy that tours Toronto to highlight the critical role of trees in urban landscapes. So some really great initiative on their part, and we're happy to be hosting them on and it's a free all-day event from July 14th to the 20th. So we're in partnership with them. So very excited for that. Luminato, this is a very exciting installation from Luminato. It's going to take over our entire West Campus. If you imagine where the rink was this past year, that will be this massive structure from June 4th to 22nd. And it's an experience-free and ticketed events as Luminato transforms our immersive art, extraordinary performances, cuisine, live music is going to be tagged around all this. We are really working hard on not just making a one event. We're trying to make many events wrapped around a more wholesome experience when people come to the waterfront. So they're not coming just for one thing. That's really kind of our steam and our engine of these days. The Luminarium is coming as well. And the experience, it's a monumental work in sculpture that is again going to be quite exciting. And there's at the concert stage, there's a glimpse of Quincy. So that's the greatest Quincy Jones with Grammy Award-winning artist Larnell Lewis, and a tribute showcase and icon hits the dude back on the block, and more on June 13th at 8 p.m. So and then the Hamlet at the Harbourfront Centre Theatre. This is also a very exciting piece. It is it's working off a piece from Shakespeare, but with a different spin. I'll call it that. It's their interpretation. So that's on June 13th to the 15th, Friday, Saturday, 7 p.m. and Sunday, 2 p.m. So what's on the weekends? Cultural festivals. So we're bringing some of the best global cultural festivals on the waterfront. We're celebrating unique communities in the city. For a lineup of events, please go to our website. But South by Southeast is going to kick off on June 27th to the 29th. This is Asian and Latin American cuisines and cultures, music. These folks are very organized. We expect this to be extremely successful and extremely busy. There's salsa dancing, there's a kids zone, fun for all ages. So we're excited by this new program that's coming to our site. Fun Philippines is a returning festival, a very popular one, a very busy one. And if you like food and you like music and you like people that have a lot of fun, I welcome you to come to Fun Philippines. It was a great success last year. Caribbean Vibrations Festival. So this is also a new piece to some degree for us with TV, CV Vest, Caribbean Vibrations Festival is a celebration of 27 islands in the Caribbean region. So, and that's filled with music, jewelry and comedy and everything Caribbean. And that's happening on July 11th to the 13th. And then Unity Fest is join us for the for dance battles, live hip hop performances, and local food vendors, marketplaces, and networking events. Vibes for all ages on the 19th of July. It's an all-day, one-day event. And Habari Africa is joining us on August 8th to the 10th. And there's live music, dance workshops, arts by African, Canadian, and international artists presented by Batuki Music Society. And Taiwan Fest is also coming back this year. This is to celebrate the stories of two seafaring cultures at Taiwan Fest with music, exhibitions, food, and film. Again, a very exciting, excellent music and thoughtful dialogue from Portugal. So it's a really interesting twist here, August 22nd to the 24th. Then we continue in culinary experiences. We have an International Food and Drink Festival on Victoria Day long weekend. That's this weekend, folks. It's already here. So we're very excited about this. It's, you know, you're gonna have street foods, gourmet specialties, live music. We have a marketplace. Our buskers are gonna start performing. There's cooking demonstrations Saturday and Sunday and Monday. So Flavors by Fire, Labor Day weekend. So this is also in conjunction on the sorry, not in conjunction. This is Labor Day ultimate event for grill lovers and foodies. So slow smoked meats, fire roasted veggies, and that is on August 30th to the 1st. And then we have a mishmash of letters, and if you could read in between that, it's Underground Market. Having a little bit of fun there. So that is bringing a late night market full of vibes of creative bites and emerging food and drink concepts. It's all at $10 and under. Everything there is $10 and under, and enjoy a night of culinary adventure with indie vendors and DJ sets from May 31st to July 26th, Saturdays 5 to 11. And Harbourfront Farmers Market. This is exciting. This is a first for us, a celebration of local agricultural homegrown produce. Visitors can connect directly with Ontario's farmers, small batch producers, and enjoy the best in seasonal produce, meats, and products. That's from May 31st to September 27th, Saturdays from 9 to 10 to 1 p.m. 9 a.m., sorry, to 1 p.m. Always on. So the food scene, sneak peek. The food scene, this is new, is the Queen's Harbour, which I just jumped to that slide. And I'm going to jump to it right now. It's opening this summer early. This is an image of the restaurant as you look out towards the CN Tower. You can see that that glass enclosure is in there. They're starting tiling work this week on the ground. They're just finishing the ceiling. The tree hasn't arrived yet, but we're excited about that tree. The back end of this building has installed a retractable roof. Takes 1 minute and 42 seconds to retract to completely open. And when you're sitting on that patio, the views of the CN Tower are spectacular. You get basically the whole top half of the CN Tower. So, and then you have lake views, and it's just incredible. It's really going to be a one of a kind to be seen. And so we're very excited about that. And as we all know, or may not know in this call, for those who may have missed it, but it's a Mediterranean cuisine. So there's a sushi bar that kind of lives in the middle. There's bars in the middle of the restaurant. It's, you know, extremely high ceilings and a Mediterranean flavor to it. So and there's patios wrapped around the building, and the front of the building. There's beautiful patios that they're putting in. And at the galley year-round, it's a go-to destination. That's on our proper main building, and we'll have street food icons, underground kitchen heroes, chef and pop-ups throughout the summer in the galley. The Boxcar Social is the restaurant that is year-round on our back patio. They're open for business. And they are rebranding their restaurant, which is run by them. It's now Bobby's Bermuda's Sunset Bar. That's the one by our concert stage. formerly called the Slip. So they're changing, and they're kind of, what are they saying here? Grab your best buds and saddle up at this Waterfront Tex-Mex taco bar for local beers, tacos, and chili vibes. So it's a very relaxing environment, and they do always focus on local beers. Then Amsterdam Brew House says they're doing a refresh right now themselves. They put some really nice, clean face on the outside of their patio between the new restaurant, and they've been redoing their shop. It's looking beautiful, so we welcome people to come and see what they're up to. And then from we have Matt's Refreshments. So this is from the streets of Mexico to Toronto, ginger lemonade, and all sorts of different foods that are going to be on our property. I Love Churros is continuing with us, and we're giving them a little bit more footprint throughout our property. And Lisa's Ice Cream has done an incredible job of giving a facelift to a building that was looking a little tired. It's been completely repainted, refaced. And they're rebranding. I'll say that to this end, and it's a lot more elegant, and I think a lot more fitting as we're freshening up our property throughout. So Lisa's sits between the concert stage and our North Orchard. That's right by Marina 4. And my last slide is our summer camps. This continues. Actually, today was the opening of Forest of Reading. We had almost 1,000 children on our property today. It was very intense and very exciting. It's again for the next 2 days, and then we're gonna clean up and get ready for the weekend that we talked about. But very exciting, and they're almost all sold out. Our programs which is very exciting for us. But we have also an improv with theater improv camps this year. And we've partnered with, Second City, and we're doing some camps with Second City as well. So we're very excited about all the different partnerships and events that are happening at Harbourfront. It's a packed lineup, as you can see. Our teams have been really busy. We've been pedaling like a duck, nice and calm up and top, but pedaling like a duck, getting everything together. And we're very excited to have a new summer with new programming, buskers returns. Like I think Harbourfront's been listening. Kathy Loblaw, as you all met, she's been present. She's in the mix. She's amongst us. She's a resident as well now on the waterfront. She has a place there, so she's vested. We're vested, and that's it. I hope I didn't go too fast. I always try to go a little quickly because time is of the essence for everyone. But if there's any questions, happy to take them. And I am going to answer the Amsterdam piece that I promised. Yeah. So the Amsterdam Bridge, as Tom Davidson pointed out, we are in deep discussions with the city. Deputy Mayor is working hard with us to support us, and we're talking with many different levels of the city, and we're going to come up with something here. But this is a heavy lift, right? I mean, this bridge was quoted $1.2 million back in 2021. So right now, what we are working on is getting an updated costing and possible options for way forward, so that we could further those discussions and come up with some solutions. And there's many talks and support from even the WBIA, who's stepped up. Tim, always a great supporter. So it is on our radar. It's not fallen off. Cannot fall off.
Somebody has asked.
I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
Goodness.
So,
yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm sorry. My speaker actually turned off.
Oh. Okay. What's happening at Lavazza? There's some kind of it seems like big electrical boxes or something.
Yeah, that's
cryptocurrency. Is that what is?
Yeah, that's an activation. So that's one of the other ways that Harbourfront is trying to find ways to bring in revenue. So that's an activation, and it's they're exhibiting, you know, cryptocurrency mining, and that's their activation. It's not permanent there. It's I don't remember the dates that's running. It's starting today, but that won't be there for much more than in a week. I think it's not even more than 4 days, because the Toronto Museum is opening up on the 21st, so they have to be out before that.
Okay. It all looked very intriguing. I'm sure if I go there, I could just make millions instantly, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. For coming, and we look forward to all the exciting stuff that's happening at Harbourfront as it sort of revitalizes itself. Tim Kocur, are you here? You're here?
Yeah, hopefully you can hear me.
Excellent, you're here. Tim is our excellent local executive director of Waterfront BIA. He always has, he's always got a lot of projects and things on the go. So tell us all about it, Tim.
Oh, thanks, Ed. Yeah, I'll be really brief, but I mean, this is the exciting time of the year when the businesses are kind of all open, patios are open, the boats are all back in the water, and everyone's just hoping for nice weather.
Yeah.
And for a busy season, I mean, some of the tourism businesses could measure how busy they are based on how nice the weather is on the long weekends. There are some new businesses either open or opening soon. I'm sure you guys have seen. So I mean, I'm excited about them too. I mean, the Island Cafe is actually, I don't think anyone's mentioned this yet, but they are back open. You can go drink coffee over there where it had burned down last summer. But they aren't fully built out. Like I think they're expecting to have like a more grand reopening in about a month's time, but they are open. Like please go over and support them, buy coffee right now. And then also you may have seen it's been getting some press. There's going to be a rock climbing gym going into the Daniels building at the corner of Charles Street. I've noticed that's gotten a lot of press recently. In terms of overall, I think obviously the businesses are a mix of worried and optimistic. I mean, probably about half and half worry about geopolitics, et cetera, but also potential recessions. But then there's also a lot of optimism. I was actually talking to a business on the island today, and they were saying that so they noticed some Americans and some international people trying to like pay with international currency, and they were taking that as a good omen that our like international business are going to be back to normal, and U.S. friends will keep coming as well. Other than that, I just want to say thanks to the YQNA that actually supported us recently a bit behind the scenes to help with, and we're trying to get coordinated for the fall. We basically the last weekend of September and the first weekend of October, we're hoping to have a lot going on. So hopefully it won't be until the summer that we can announce it all. But I'd be happy to come back. I don't know when the next YQNA meetings are, but in the past, Catherine and I came and did a more detailed presentation about BIA's September. Actually, that'd be perfect. If you don't mind giving us time. Yeah, we could tell you everything about that.
That's my understanding.
But yeah, that might be a good time to give you an update about not just what we're planning for the fall with other waterfront stakeholders, but also priorities for the next year in terms of what we're expecting, hopefully, with FIFA, et cetera. I mean, the BIA's goal is to work with all the other partners and try and jointly bring as many large events and attractions to the waterfront as possible. So I'm always happy to, I think in the past we'd offered if you want us to come and give a more detailed presentation like once a year, it might be an appropriate use of time just to make sure you guys are informed and have some feedback into what we're doing.
An attraction study pending at Waterfront Toronto. In other words, what are the big razzmatazz things that could potentially go in the future?
Well, I think I'm not completely, my understanding is they call it the destination development strategy, and they're going to be looking at, like my understanding is they're focused of course on the Portlands and how to get the most out of that as a destination, their new parks, etc. But we're hoping it's more broad in terms of how the new Portlands is connected to the central waterfront with Harbourfront Centre as an already very active attraction hub. And then also to the west, like the malting silos area that's going to continue to develop around the island airport. And then ultimately the Ontario Place exhibition place. I mean, if those get fully built out as planned, that's going to be a pretty significant attraction zone itself. So yeah, but my understanding is they're thinking more broadly about just what's the best way to turn the broader waterfront into an attraction. So I'm sure the residents will get lots of feedback on that in terms of how it obviously fits into a mixed use neighborhood. But yeah, that's a Waterfront Toronto led project that we expect that the BIA and the residents will all have a chance for feedback.
Yep. I don't know when that is, but I think it's sort of in the brewing. It's my understanding. Okay, thanks very much, Tim.
Thank you.
we have a wonderful interim treasurer, Margaret Akins.
I don't think she's speaking tonight after all.
Okay.
But there was really no big news.
Okay, no big news. Okay. So that's I think the end of our show, unless somebody wants to add something to the agenda or speaker. That's something that's significant that they'd like to bring to everybody's attention. Unless there's something in the chat that I've kind of missed and should bring up. I don't know. But if not, then YQNA, okay, so here's somebody, Julie Bain, YQNA on the Division 52 Community Liaison. It's going to annual charity BBQ on June 11th, starting 11 this year's supposed charity Special Olympics. So we can go up there and have BBQ. And so that sounds like a fun event. Still waiting for a hardware store I can walk to. Okay, that's Liz says that. Thanks to all. Good night. I think you can go over to kind of like the Esplanade and over there at Jarvis or something. Isn't there a hardware store over there? Anyway, thanks everybody for coming. Our next meeting, and I'm not clear yet. Maybe somebody else can enlighten me. I'm not clear on whether it's on Zoom or live. We sort of. Pardon me?
Live. We're looking live for September.
Oh, live. Okay, live for September. Okay, great. We can all actually see each other, and that'd be good. So we'll look forward to that. September 9th, not too long after Labor Day, we'll all be back into the fall routine. And we look forward to seeing you all. Now, one more thing, very, very important. There is, I think, a donate button on the YQNA website. And if you happen to, by any chance, have any cash that you thought should be devoted to an industry organization that looks at sort of what's going on the waterfront, keeps people informed, and writes the odd letter and goes to meetings and things like that, then feel free to put a little bit of money into our coffers. We have typically, we vary maybe around $2,000 or so, and we need it to run a website and do a few other things. So anything that you could donate would be more than appreciated. So unless somebody has something else pressing, then I'm going to thank everybody for coming, and we'll see you next time.